Today, we're diving deep into a company that's basically the engine for one of the world's biggest agricultural economies. This is the story of how you fuel millions of hectares of farmland that feeds not just a nation, but a whole lot of the world.
So let's start with a number 15.44 million. Just let that sink in for a second. Any guesses what that represents?
Yup, that is 15.44 million hectares of oil palm plantations just in Indonesia. To give you some scale, that is an area larger than the entire country of Greece. All of it dedicated to this one super important crop. It's just a massive, massive agricultural engine. Now, an engine that huge needs an unbelievable amount of fuel to keep running productively, right? So that begs the question, who's providing it? Well, that's where companies like PET Saraswati, Anagraha Macmore come in. You'll see them on the stock exchange's SAMF. They are one of the key players, one of the main fuel suppliers for this whole industry. So let's unpack how they got to where they are today. So this timeline really tells a story of steady, smart growth. They started out with just one factory back in 1998. Then you see them expand across Indonesia's most important agricultural islands. Of course, their IPO in 2020 was a huge moment for them. And now, here we are, they're running 5 factories with a production capacity of 700,000 tons a year. This was no overnight success story. This was all about calculated expansion.
So what's their secret sauce? All of that incredible growth was built on one core product. Their main business is non-subsidized NPK fertilizer. Now, if you're not in the farming world, NPK might not mean much, but it's actually pretty simple. It stands for the 3 chemical elements that are the absolute foundation of plant nutrition: nitrogen, which is for leaf growth, phosphorus for roots and flowers, and potassium, which is for the plant's overall health. SAMF's whole deal is creating these custom blends of these essential nutrients.
They sell these blends under a few key brand names. You've got their main NPK products, Fertindo, Pupindo, and Fonica. But the one you really want to pay attention to is Planta Plus. This one's a bit more advanced. It's a controlled release fertilizer. It feeds plants over a longer time, which really shows you their focus on innovation and making things more efficient for farmers. All right, so we know who they are, we know what they make. Now let's get into the good stuff and check the company's vitals. How healthy are they really from a financial point of view? Let's rewind the clock a bit to 2019. Back then, the company's capital was split pretty evenly, but a little more than half was debt. So they were funded slightly more by loans than by their own and shareholders' money. But fast forward to 2024, and you can see a very deliberate strategy playing out. They've been cutting back on their short-term bank loans and taking on more long-term debt instead. This is a classic move for a company that's maturing. It suggests they're focused on long-term stability, not just short-term fixes. And here's what that 2019 starting point looked like, just to give you a visual. Liabilities made up just over half their capital. You can think of this as the baseline they started from before they made that strategic shift. And the results of that strategy? Well, they're pretty clear. Even with all their investments and costs, the company's core business generated over 317 billion Indonesian rupiah in positive cash flow. What that means in simple terms is that after paying all the bills, more cash was coming into the business from its operations than was going out. That's a huge sign that their engine is running efficiently and profitably. So what do you do with all that cash? Well, you give back to your shareholders, right? In June of 2024, the company approved a cash dividend of over 210 billion rupiah. This shows their growth isn't just some number on a spreadsheet. It's translating into real, tangible returns for investors. Okay, so that brings us to the million-dollar question. How do they do it? What's the strategy that's driving this kind of performance, especially in a market that can be so competitive and volatile? It all starts with this core philosophy, and this is taken directly from their 2024 report. It's a simple idea, but it's incredibly powerful. Quality above everything else. This intense focus on operational excellence is the bedrock of their whole business model. But look, a philosophy is just words without a practical game plan, right? Especially when the price of your raw materials can swing wildly. So here's their 3-step playbook for managing that risk. First, they lock in the prices for their supplies with fixed contracts. Second, they adjust their own sale prices to match. And third, that allows them to pass those increases on to customers, which protects their profit margins. It's a really smart, proactive, and disciplined approach.
Okay, but a company isn't just about spreadsheets and profit margins, right? It's also about people. So let's take a look at the leadership guiding the ship and what they're doing for the community and the planet. So let's put some faces to the strategy we've been talking about. These are some of the key leaders at the helm, the ones responsible for steering the company through all its growth and making those plans a reality. And their work definitely doesn't stop at the factory gates. The company's corporate social responsibility programs are actually pretty extensive. They invest heavily in the communities where they operate. We're talking about everything from repairing schools and places of worship to providing scholarships. And on the environmental side, they're implementing things like waste treatment systems and making sure their own energy use is as eco-friendly as possible.
I really think this quote from their 2019 report, which was right before their IPO, just captures the company's whole vibe. It speaks to this forward-looking optimism and a sense of unity, and it seems like that's what has carried them through all their growth since.
And this all brings us to our final thought, the big picture. The story of SAMF isn't just about one company. It's really a snapshot of a much larger global trend. With the world's population growing and demand for both food and biofuels from crops like palm oil on the rise, the efficiency and sustainability of agriculture is more critical than it's ever been. So the question we're left with is this: how will the companies fueling this massive engine, companies like SAMF, not only grow their own businesses, but also help shape a more productive and responsible future for agriculture around the world?